If we are to believe those who would like nothing better than for it to happen, the Republican Party is tearing itself to shreds. There is skullduggery all around, and there is absolutely no chance the GOP will emerge victorious in 2016. Oh, how we do love to dig into such meaty moments of beltway mirth and mystery. This as America finds itself in the grip of everything Tom Brady, because everyone understands how critically important to our evolution 2 pounds of compressed air really is. Join me then as we deflate the various pundit gas bags and reinflate the atmosphere with some common sense. I'm Ed Berliner. Buckle up. This is The Hard Line for Tuesday, May 12th, 2015.
I think we can all stipulate that the best anti-poverty program is a job, which confers not just income, but structure and dignity and a sense of connection to community.
AOL has the potential for being a serial killer in the sense that Time Warner had a very poor experience with AOL. Time Warner paid a huge price for it, about 12 years ago, and it disemboweled that company.
We've had a lot of casualties to dead on arrival to the hospital. The last count I heard was 40 injured, but that is several hours ago, so the number is much higher now.
I find it stunning that the National Football League is more concerned about how much air is in football than with a racist franchise name that denigrates Native Americans across the country. The Redskins name is a racist name.
The notion that I had this massive fight with Wall Street to make sure that we don't repeat what happened in 2007, 2008, and then I sign a provision that would unravel it, I'd have to be pretty stupid.
Oh, don't say that now. Political party infighting is nothing new, especially given the growing number of choices on the GOP menu of 2016 presidential candidates. But a rift between liberal Democrats and President Obama is growing, so maybe there's a crack in that world for the Republicans to take advantage of, right? Our guest was the 7th Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, former chairman of the Republican National Committee, a lifelong resident of Maryland, and we'll talk about that momentarily. Pleasure to welcome Michael Steele to The Hard Line. Michael, thanks for being here.
Hey, what's up, man?
It's another day in paradise, my friend, and time for you and I to go ahead and start tearing into some of this stuff here. And we're going to start right out with this notion that the Democrats and the liberals believe that the Republicans are killing themselves. It's Harry Carey right now. There's blood in the water. And the Debs think that no matter what the Republicans do, they will win in 2016 because the GOP can't get their act together. Are they just really overconfident? Or maybe, is there a smidgen of truth in there?
Well, they're highly overconfident. There's no doubt about that. But there is potentially a smidgen of truth to it, to the extent that right now everyone's focusing their fire on a Hillary Clinton candidacy, and that has shown itself to be wholly inept, as it's come out of the starting blocks. But there will come a point where these individuals on the Republican side will have to distinguish themselves. And how they do that and how they set the tone for the difference between them and the other or one another is going to be important. I don't see a wholesale slaughtering at the altar of political correctness within the GOP, if you will. But there will be some battle scars that come from this, and because that's just the nature of the beast. So I think the Democrats are overly confident in how and to what degree that takes place. But we need to, be honest about the fact that if I'm a candidate running for president and I'm on stage with 12, 15 other people, I got to carve out my space. And if I'm going to do it with a little bit of your hide, I'm going to do it.
So then what is that thing that the GOP candidates have got to perhaps cure at this point? Because there's repeal of Obamacare, not going to happen. There's gay marriage. People believe that's something else that has to go by the wayside right now. So if they're looking to create something that will absolutely resonate with the people of America, Republicans, Democrats, Independents alike, what's that going to be and what do they got to get rid of?
I still say it's jobs, despite the rosy forecast from the Obama administration and from independent sources about where the economy is and what the state of the economy is currently. The undercurrent that still exists within the economy is this lack of trust. Yes, I have a job. How long will I keep it? I've still been unemployed for 18 months. Will I get a job? The underemployed in the country is an enormous problem for a complete recovery to take hold here. So I think there's some window and room for the party leadership to start talking about some of the economic policies, whether it's on tax reform, whether it's on banking reform, whatever it happens to be, to sort of clearly delineate themselves from where the Obama administration currently finds itself. The second piece is on foreign policy, and this is where you're going to see some of the hide come off some of these candidates potentially. There is this hard swing to interventionist sort of going after our enemies and sort of no holds barred. The country is not quite there, so how they talk about that is going to have to be a little bit more nuanced. Jeb Bush yesterday saying what he said, I think really has a lot of eyebrows raised across the board, because we know what the truth is now with respect to Iraq. Certainly that has been an undercurrent for a lot of Republicans who are not necessarily biting on the neocon proposition that, this was the right thing to do and we needed to engage.
Well, let me hit on that, Michael, because while you're there,
Sure.
let me just hit right on that point, because apparently the question to him was, knowing what we know now, would you have authorized the invasion? It seemed as if maybe he answered the question on what was known at the time instead of what's known now. So that little nuance right there, how's he going to repair that? Because there automatically is that thinking that you're just like your brother and you haven't learned anything.
Bingo. And Ed, I think you're going to see the campaign come out with some clarification. If not today, then certainly later this week, because this thing is beginning to bubble a life of its own. And what will be interesting to watch is whether or not his opponents in the Republican field jump on this. Do they then go after him on this? Because everyone knows, if you're answering the question knowing what we know now, the answer is no. I would not do it the same way, that this would be a different outcome. But if the answer is, if the question is what you say it is, or I'm thinking and I process it at the time, then I can see that answer. And he's going to have to come back and clarify that. I think he misprocessed it. I think he just heard it and processed it differently. And now he's going to have to clean that up, because that is an opening he does not want to give a Rand Paul or some others out there potentially who could come after him.
Look out, we've now coined a new term, misprocessed. We have to put that into the whole lexicon now of politicalism is here. I got about a minute and a half left here. You're a lifetime Baltimorean, Marylander. You've been there your whole life. You know it. What happened in Baltimore was a travesty. It was difficult for the nation to watch.
Yeah.
But now we're leading ourselves to criminal justice reform that people are now starting to talk about. Mrs. Clinton has done it. Others are hitting on it. How big a deal do you think that should be come the 2016 election? How should we hit that? Should it be hit hard?
I think it should be a part of the 2016 conversation. I want to see all the Republican candidates for president take a position on it. Certainly one of the leaders who've been on this for well over 2 years has been Rand Paul. He's not new to this conversation. Everyone else is. Hillary and her now coming back and having to deal with the reality of her husband's policy that set in motion the outcome that we now see in cities like Baltimore, exacerbated by mayors like O'Malley, who took this sort of hardline zero tolerance point of view that resulted in 100,000 of Baltimore citizens being arrested in a population of 600,000. So yeah, this is going to be a real honest discussion. And to be honest, Ed, if you're going to get to the nub of the discussion on race, you've got to start here. You've got to include this as part of that conversation, because it's pound for pound a big part of what ails the Black community, how our criminal justice system marginalizes and even puts them on this very devastating track that includes poverty and poor education, and that this cycle they can't seem to get out of.
Lighter side, 10 seconds. Did Tom Brady cheat?
Yes.
You're a Ravens fan?
Because that's what cheaters do.
There you go. And they just keep cheating. But then again, I just wanted to make sure, because I know Baltimore, there's got to be a Ravens hook in there somewhere, and everybody wants to know how everybody feels about it right now. So we had to make sure to get it in there. Michael, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's do it again a lot more often.
Absolutely.
All right, my pleasure. Take care. See, you have to make sure that you hit all the hard stuff, no matter what it is, what America cares about. Stay with us. This is the fastest 60 minutes in news. This is The Hard Line.